So you found yourself with an active sourdough starter, but you've not yet made any bread with it, and you have absolutely no idea where to start or what to do. Well, let me show you what you need to do with this. First of all, the day before, 12 hours before, 4 hours before, depends on your starter and how long it takes for it to double in size, you need to feed it up and then wait for it to be at its peak, but past its peak, because if it's at its peak, how do you know it's truly at its peak until it actually started to fall? So in here, I made up 150 grams of sourdough starter with 50 grams left over, so there's actually 200 in here. Now the recipe that I use is a 65% hydration recipe, which is definitely recommended for beginners. Now if you're unsure about what that means, it doesn't really matter, to be honest, but if you can follow the recipe that I'm using, you will find better results with it. So first of all, you need a bowl and you need a set of scales. Now we all know that water weighs the same as it is in millilitres, but when we make sourdough, we do need to weigh everything so that it's accurate. Because on there, it says that there's 300 mils. Let's pop it in here. Have we got 300 mils? No, we've actually got 330 mils, which would actually take this to maybe a 70 or even a 7, probably like a 70% hydration, maybe even a 75. So for all of those that are concerned, curious, whatever, the measurements on the side of the jug are normally not correct. So I'm actually, although it said 300, I'm actually just going to put 300 in there, and I've got all of that water left over. So that's why we use the scales. So then I'm going to take my sourdough starter, I'm going to put it back to 0, and I'm going to pop in here 150 grams of the active starter. I'm then left with 50 grams in here, which isn't very much. There we go. I'm then left with 50 grams. Now I have a choice there. I can either feed it with a baking feed or a maintenance feed. They're both exactly the same, they're just about quantity, that's all that is. So I would now either feed this with a maintenance feed, which would be 50, 50 and 50, or even reduce that down to 10 and do 10, 10 and 10, whatever you feel like. If you've got a warm environment, you probably need to do a higher ratio, and if you've got a cold environment, you'll probably need to do a lower ratio, only you know that. But I've got that in there, I'll feed that up. But then equally, if I wanted to bake tomorrow, what I would then do is I'd work out how much I would need. So I've got 50 in there, and let's say I wanted to make another loaf tomorrow. I want 150 for my recipe, so I'd put 75 grams of flour and 75 grams of water. So what I'm then going to do is just stir it up. Stir it up, these two here, using the dough whisk, just so that it makes a milky texture, like so. And then we're going to add the flour. So we're just going to 0 the scales back off again. Spoon in there. Now this is Canadian bread flour. This is one for marriages with 15 grams of protein. Now whilst it's always a bone of contention that I use Canadian bread flour, and lots of people have said to me, why are we not using British? Well, I'm not going to go into the politics of it, but most of the flour and bread that we use in this country, a huge amount of that is Canadian. So, and you know why? It's because it's the best. I've got 500, and now I'm going to add in 10 grams of salt. Now the salt that we add at this point is less about flavour and much more about part of the fermentation process. So we're going to add 10 grams of that. Normal table salt is absolutely fine because it's part of the fermentation process rather than the actual flavour. Save the expensive nice Maldon sea salts and similar for something else. But this particular one, just a bog standard table salt is absolutely fine. Then what we need to do is stir it all up into a shaggy dough. And that is what we need to do with our sourdough starter once we have created a lovely, bubbling, doubling starter. Now, if you want to know the rest of the process, I have got lots of videos in my playlist, pinned at the top of my page. We sell a journal which talks you through how to make sourdough from start to finish. We offer that as a physical copy. We also have it as a PDF. Plus we have what I have created to be the 10 stages of making sourdough, either on videos or as a downloadable PDF. There is so much information on this page where you can get everything you need to know how to make sourdough. But if you do have any questions, do let me know. But I'm going to move on to my stretch and folds in half an hour. And then this will be a beautifully baked loaf tomorrow morning. But if you want to check out PDFs and stuff, go and check in the bio because there are some really lovely ones in there and they're going to really help you with your sourdough.